Ma'am, please don't touch that line. It's Justin 4. He'll be fine once he stands. Stop. That's my son. He needs that to breathe. The terminal lights echoed cold against polished floors at Dallas-Fort Worth International, baggage belts groaning like distant thunder. Gate C-27 was full, but suddenly silent, as if every breath in the room held itself at the sight of a flight attendant in a crisp Navy uniform gripping a thin, medical four-line taped to a young black boy's arm. 12-year-old Caleb Brooks sat slumped in a wheelchair, chest fluttering like paper in wind. His mother, Dana Brooks, had been pleading for special assistance. The flight was delayed, medical transport late. Caleb's portable four-pump, buzzing low like a cricket, fed him hydration while they waited for their next connection to Columbus, Ohio. The flight attendant's badge gleamed under the terminal LEDs, a tiny reflection like a blade before the strike. "You're delaying boarding," the attendant said. Dana's voice broke. "He just needs 5 more minutes. Ma'am, remove him or I will." A pair of passengers stood, unsure, eyes darting. One tried to speak, but fear of authority tightened her throat. Another man fumbled for his phone, hesitated, put down. No one wanted to be the one who crossed the uniform. Then, quick as a breath, the attendant's hand snapped forward. The adhesive tore. Caleb gasped. The four-line whipped loose. A bead of clear fluid trembled at the tip, then fell tiny, soundless, lost against the white tile. Dana screamed for help. Caleb's breathing quickened, eyes watering with pain and confusion. DHS medical assistance was nowhere yet. The flight schedule board flashed boarding now, row after row changing from green to yellow as if time itself was pushing them out the door. One woman, Grace Turner, retired teacher, finally moved. Her phone was already recording, knuckles pale and steady. "Name and position, please," she said quietly, camera held high. The attendant froze. Gate agents whispered. Security watched from a distance, unsure whether to step in. The four-pump lay useless, tubing coiling like a severed vine across the boy's lap. Caleb's breaths came short, clipped, like he was trying to inhale through a straw. And Dana, shaking with fury and fear, pressed her hand on her son's shoulder, voice trembling but sharp as she reached for her phone. She dialed a single number. Everything was about to change. Enjoying this? Tap subscribe for tomorrow's story. The phone rang only once. Dana, a calm male voice answered. Her hand shook. "Elliot, they ripped his 4 out." At the gate area buzzed back to life. Rolling suitcases, murmurs, the overhead chime calling passengers to line up by group number. But around Dana and Caleb there was a clear circle of quiet, like the world had stepped back to see whether she would break or stand. Caleb wheezed softly. Without the 4 hydration, his lips already looked drier, color fading from his cheeks. He clutched his backpack straps, fingers trembling. "Mom," he whispered, "I'm okay. I can still go." Dana knelt in front of him, forcing a smile she did not feel. "You do not have to be brave for them, baby. Just breathe for me." The flight attendant stepped back, smoothing her uniform, eyes flicking from Dana's phone to Grace's recording. Her jaw tightened. "Security is on their way, ma'am," she said. "You're disrupting operations." Grace's voice was soft but steady. "What disrupted operations was you putting hands on a child within 4, ma'am?" A few heads nodded. A businessman in a gray blazer moved closer, phone now out and filming. Another passenger, a young mother with a stroller, murmured, "This isn't right," half to herself, half to anyone listening. On the phone, Elliot's voice sharpened. "Which airport?" "Dallas-Fort Worth. Gate C-27. Is he stable?" Dana swallowed hard. She stared at the torn tape still stuck to Caleb's skin, the reddened outline where the 4 had been. "I don't know," she whispered. "He's breathing fast. They said medical would meet us at the gate. They didn't. Stay with him. Document everything." "Do you hear me, Dana?" "Everything." She glanced up. Grace met her eyes, gave a small nod. "Already documenting." "I hear you," Dana replied. The gate agent in a blue blazer crossed the invisible line and approached, smile tight as glass. His name tag read, R. Miller, Supervisor. "Miss Brooks?" he asked, reading it from the screen. "We need to de-escalate." The attendant was following procedure. "If your son can't travel safely without that equipment attached, we can rebook you." He could travel safely with the equipment attached. Dana cut in. Your employee tore it off him. Caleb flinched at the raised voices. Dana lowered her tone immediately, brushing a hand over his curls. Look at me, baby. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Like Dr. Chong showed you. He mimicked the breathing exercise, chest shuddering but slowing a little. Sir, Grace said to the supervisor, I have the whole thing on video. Nobody was in danger. She yanked that line because she was impatient. The supervisor's eyes darted to the camera. For a moment, the terminal hum seemed louder, the soft roar of air conditioning, the click-click of distant rolling bags, the faint overhead announcement about an unrelated flight boarding at gate D12. Ma'am, the supervisor said, please stop recording. I'm on public property, Grace answered. And I just watched a disabled child be mishandled. I'm not stopping. Dana lifted the phone back to her ear. Elliot, I'm still here. The supervisor just asked her to stop recording, she said. They're trying to make this disappear. There was a pause on the line. When Elliot spoke again, his voice had changed. No longer just concerned, but controlled, like someone sliding into a familiar role. Good, he said. Tell them your full name and that you've requested all surveillance footage preserved. Say it clearly. I'm calling someone now. Who? Dana asked. On the other end, a chair creaked. A keyboard began to clatter. The only people they listen to faster than lawyers, Elliot replied. Start talking, Dana. Don't let them move you. Dana stood, turned to the supervisor, and drew a breath that came from somewhere deeper than fear. My name is Dana Brooks, she said, voice carrying over the crowd. And I'm formally requesting that every camera angle covering gate C27 from 10 minutes ago until now be preserved. The supervisor's polite smile vanished. Before he could answer, 2 airport security officers rounded the corner toward them. Caleb saw the uniforms and gripped the armrest of his wheelchair. Mom, he whispered. Are we in trouble? She didn't move, didn't sit, didn't step back. No, Dana said quietly, eyes locked on the supervisor. But I think they might be. The 2 security officers slowed as they approached, palms open, scanning faces, gauging tension. One was tall, early 50s, badge-reading Officer Leonard, the other younger, Officer Ruiz, eyes moving fast like he was still learning which way a situation might break. Officer Leonard spoke first. Ma'am, we received a call about a disturbance. Dana stepped forward once, not aggressive, anchored. The disturbance, she said, voice controlled, was when your airline employee tore medical equipment out of my son's arm. Caleb's breathing, though steadier, came shallow, like every inhale cost a coin, and he was running short. Grace, still filming, shifted closer to shield him from the small cluster of gawkers. Officer Ruiz glanced at the 4-pump in Caleb's lap. That line was attached. Yes, Dana answered. Until she removed it without consent. The young officer's eyebrows tightened, just enough to show doubt. The older officer, practiced in neutrality, turned to the supervisor. Mr. Miller, confirmed. Miller swallowed. There was a disagreement. The attendant followed policy regarding. No policy authorizes removing medical equipment from a minor. Grace cut in, steady as a metronome. Especially not when the parent requests medical delay. A murmur rippled through the gate as a few more passengers raised their phones. The woman with the stroller clutched her child closer, muttering, If that were my son. Miller held up his hands. Everyone, please. This is under review. Dana's phone buzzed in her hand. A text from Elliot. Help is coming. Hold steady. Her breath caught, not relief yet, but direction. Officer Leonard shifted his stance. Ms. Brooks, we should move to a quieter area. Caleb tensed. Dana shook her head. We're not disappearing into a back room. We stay here. In public view. Under cameras. This time, more than one person nodded. The flight attendant, silent until now, stepped forward, chin lifted as if reclaiming authority. I was keeping the aisle clear, she insisted. She delayed boarding and refused to move. The line wasn't secure. It could have been dangerous. Dana looked at her, long and steady. You never asked how long he needed. You never asked if he was stable. You saw a delay, not a child. The attendant's mouth pressed into a thin line. A flush crept up her throat. Then a new voice emerged from behind the crowd. Measured, courteous, carrying weight without force. Excuse me. I need to speak with Ms. Dana Brooks. Heads turned. A man in a charcoal suit with an airport staff lanyard stepped forward. His name tag read, Thomas Hale, Operations Liaison. His presence changed the air, like someone had opened a door to a different temperature. I've been briefed, Hale said, eyes sweeping the scene. Medical support is en route. Ms. Brooks, may I ask, where is the forecatheter now? Was it damaged? Dana pointed to the coiled tubing on Caleb's lap. One pull. It's unusable until replaced. Hale nodded slowly, thoughtfully, not defensive. Unlike the others, he didn't flinch at the cameras. Officers, he said, no detention. No relocation. The family remains here until medical arrives. Miller's eyes widened. But Mr. Hale, that's an instruction, Hale said gently, leaving no space for argument. Then he turned to Dana. I need to ask one more thing. You said you've requested surveillance footage preserved. Yes. And you'll be filing a formal report? Dana met his gaze, tired but unbroken. I already have an attorney on the line. Hale nodded again, as if confirming something deeper than paperwork. Ms. Brooks, he said quietly, I believe you should take another call in about 90 seconds. Things may shift quickly. 90 seconds? Grace asked. Why? Hale didn't answer. He simply stepped back, position unchanged but allegiance unmistakably moved. Dana checked her phone. No new call. Caleb whispered, Mom, what's happening? Dana knelt beside him again, brushing a curl from his forehead. Something, she murmured, I's never leaving the terminal entrance. Someone. And as the gate buzzed with held breath, security uncertain, staff unsettled, Dana's phone lit up with an incoming call. A name on the screen that made her go still, silent, trembling for an entirely different reason. Not fear. Power. She answered. Dana. The voice was firm, low, threaded with authority she remembered from a different chapter of her life. Back before hospitals and wheelchairs. Back when she worked late nights drafting briefs beside men whose signatures moved budgets. Chairman Whitford, Dana breathed. Not disbelief, recognition. Elliot had called someone far above an airline supervisor. From across the terminal, Hale, the operations liaison, watched her closely, as if waiting for a signal no one else could see. Yes, Whitford said. I've been informed your son's medical support was removed without consent. I'm initiating a federal inquiry. Stay exactly where you are. Medical support will arrive. Do not sign or agree to anything. The world around Dana blurred for a moment, not weaker, but sharper. Caleb's uneven breaths. Grace's camera recording. Miller's forced calm, beads of sweat along his collar. The Ford tubing, limp like proof. Dana steadied her voice. Thank you, sir. Give the phone to the senior security officer, Whitford said. Now. Officer Leonard blinked when she handed the phone over. This is Leonard. A pause, then his spine straightened. Yes, sir. Another pause. Understood. I'll preserve the scene. No relocation. No interviews without counsel. Leonard handed the phone back as if it carried weight. Ma'am, he said quietly, tone transformed, we'll ensure your son receives care immediately. I'll document officer observations personally. A ripple went through the onlookers, uncertain, electric. Miller, the gate supervisor, attempted a smile that wavered. There may still be misunderstanding. If we could move to the lounge, private area, quiet. No, Leonard interrupted. His voice carried. They remain here until medical support arrives. All recording is permitted. The attendant's eyes widened, a pale tremor running through her composure. Hale stepped closer. Ms. Brooks, I'd like to remain with you until the paramedics replace the four. I will personally relay information to Operations Command. You are not alone in this. Caleb leaned toward his mother. Mom, did we win? Dana held his hand. No, baby. We're just being heard. But the watching crowd, already whispering, felt the shift. A power they hadn't seen when the four was first taken. A current moving backward toward justice. 2 EMTs pushed through the gate doors then, bright red jackets, metal cart clattering softly. They knelt, voices calm and practiced. Hi, Caleb. I'm Jenna. We're going to get you fixed up, okay? Caleb nodded, shoulders loosening. As they prepared a new catheter, Hale crouched beside Dana, speaking just for her. There will be reports, interviews, statements. Keep your documentation. Do not delete anything. The inquiry chairman Whitford opened. It will climb fast. Dana exhaled. I just wanted help for my son. And you will have it, Hale said. More than you expect. As Jenna slid a new 4 into Caleb's arm with careful precision, silence fell around them. The flight attendant watched, face drained of color. She swallowed once, like a person counting the steps between action and consequence. The last drop of saline clicked through the line. Caleb's breathing ease, slow, steady. His eyelids fluttered, relief soft as rain. Grace lowered her recording phone, not stopping but repositioning, capturing faces, sequence, context. Then from across the concourse came another shift, voices rising, footsteps gathering. Not aggressive. Curious. Someone said, "Is that the boy from gate C27? Another replied, "My sister saw the video live stream." Only minutes had passed, but news always travels faster when truth burns brightly. Dana stood straighter, hand on Caleb's shoulder, the 4-line restored. She looked at the flight attendant, who could no longer meet her eyes. "Thank you for waiting," Hale said, rising to stand at Dana's side. Now things move. Somewhere beyond gate C27, deeper in the airport's operational core, the first file request was being logged. Body cam review triggered. Internal compliance notified. The chain had begun. And as more passengers drifted closer, witnessing not chaos but correction, Dana's phone buzzed again. A new message from Elliot. Record everything. Because the story isn't done. Dana raised her chin, steady. Neither was she. The paramedics finished securing the line. Caleb's color returned just slightly, a wash of pink beneath deep brown skin. His fingers unclenched from the armrest, shoulders no longer locked like coiled wire. Jenna taped the tubing gently, her voice soft as cotton. All set. He's stable for travel, she said. But I'd recommend a rest zone before any flight. Dana nodded, gratitude flickering beneath exhaustion. Thank you. The crowd, now 3 times larger than before, watched like a gallery at a silent trial. Phones hovered, lenses recording, as if the truth needed multiple copies to survive. Grace whispered to Dana, "They can't undo what's on record now." Dana exhaled. "Record anyway." Miller rattled, approached again, tight smile cracking at the edges. "Ms. Brooks, with medical cleared, we can rebook you for later departure or offer a travel voucher." "Rebooking won't erase what happened," Dana replied. Her voice was softer than before. Firmer. Like stone smoothed by tide, not shattered by it. Hale stepped beside her. "Mr. Miller, before compensation is discussed, there must be incident filing. Full report to operations oversight." Miller's composure slipped like paper in rain. "Ah, yes. Of course." He glanced at the flight attendant. "And you will be interviewed." The attendant stiffened. "I followed protocol." "Protocol does not excuse impatience," Hale said. "Or negligence." For the first time, the attendant's eyes flickered, not with defiance, but with something quieter. Remorse, maybe. Or the first awareness of consequence. Just then, Officer Leonard received a radio call. Voices crackled, muddled, then sharpened into clarity. "Copy. Confirmed federal inquiry received. Documentation hold placed on gate C27 cameras." A hush fell. Even the baggage belt seemed to pause. Ruiz turned, eyes wide. They moved fast. Because the right person called, Dana thought. Because someone cared. Because Elliot knew who to reach when the world turned its back. She looked around, dozens of faces, some kind, some simply curious, all witnessing. Truth no longer private. Not hidden in a back office or smoothed over by policy phrases. She gently brushed Caleb's cheek. "You okay, baby?" He nodded, small but real. "Hurts a little. But I'm not scared now." Dana swallowed. Strength is heavy when held for 2. One passenger, a man with salt and pepper hair, stepped forward. "My wife is diabetic," he said. If someone ripped out her line, his voice broke. "You didn't deserve that." Others murmured in agreement. A ripple of solidarity. Quiet but powerful. And then, like a spark catching, another shift began. A woman near the back held up her phone, screen glowing. "There's already a clip circulating," she said. 80,000 views in 10 minutes. Grace blinked. "That fast?" "People reposted it," the woman replied. "They're asking for names." Dana's heart nearly stopped. Not fear for herself, but awareness of scale. This was no longer a moment. It was becoming a movement. Rapid, public, uncontainable. Hale leaned closer. You're going to have decisions soon. Legal direction. Media requests. Statements. Dana looked at Caleb, small hand resting on his reconnected line, alive with new steadiness. She would not trade peace for spectacle. But she wouldn't hide truth either. She faced Hale. All I want is accountability. And protection for others like my son. You may get both, Hale said. Almost a promise. But more eyes means more impact. Before she could answer, another vibration buzzed in Dana's hand. A new message from Elliot. Federal office requesting formal statement. Ready? Dana lifted her chin. Yes, she whispered, to Elliot, to Caleb, to the watching crowd, to herself. Because once truth opens its wings, flight is inevitable. She turned to the security officers. I'm prepared to make my statement. And somewhere far beyond Gate C-27, a chain of systems began to shift, like gears waking for the first time in years. This wasn't just documentation. This was the beginning of a reckoning. Dana sat straighter in the wheelchair beside Caleb, her composure no longer desperation, but direction. The moment she spoke her intent, something like a tide turned under the floor. Security, passengers, even the low hum of the air vents felt like they leaned toward her. Officer Leonard pulled small notepad. I'm ready to record your formal statement. Before Dana could speak, her phone rang again, an unfamiliar number with a Washington, D.C. area code. Hale inhaled sharply. You should answer that. Dana tapped accept. This is Dana. A measured woman's voice responded. Ms. Brooks, this is Deputy Director Lillian Crane with the Federal Transportation Integrity Commission. I've been briefed on an incident involving your son. Crane's tone was steady, not emotional, but beneath it, immense reach. This was not customer service. This was oversight. We received video and preliminary documentation, Crane continued. I need to verify one detail. Did an airline employee knowingly remove medical equipment from a minor despite a guardian's objection? Dana looked at Caleb, her son, her line taped once more like a lifeline restored. Yes, she said. She did. There was a pause. Then Crane said 8 words that hit the room like thunder. Then you should know what triggered next. Grace, still filming, turned slightly, capturing Dana's face as the call unfolded. Hale's eyes narrowed, not fear, but recognition of a door opening none of them expected so quickly. Crane continued. The airline responsible receives federal subsidies, medical transport funding, and emergency route retainers. Based on the live documentation and your formal request for preserved footage, those funds are now under temporary audit, pending full investigation. Dana blinked. You're saying their federal accounts are frozen, Crane confirmed. Approximately $1.4 billion in operating capital. Effective immediately. The crowd gasped. Someone dropped their coffee. Even Miller stepped back as if the words carried physical weight. The flight attendant's breath caught audibly. For the first time, her voice was small. I didn't know. Officer Ruiz glanced at Hale, voice cracking with disbelief. Did she just say $1.4 billion? Hale nodded once slow. This is now a compliance case at the national level. Dana's mind raced, not with triumph, but with gravity. Nothing about this felt like vengeance. It felt like a lever being pulled after years of dust. A system recognizing harm instead of ignoring it. Crane's voice remained even. This action is reversible, pending investigation. We need your full statement within the hour. You hold the key to whether this story becomes disciplinary action or systemic reform. Dana exhaled. Caleb squeezed her hand. She spoke quietly into the phone. I'll cooperate fully. My son deserves that. Others do too. Crane replied, Our office will dispatch an agent to your location shortly. Do not leave the public area. And Ms. Brooks, thank you for logging documentation. Without it, none of this activates. The call ended. Silence. Not empty, charged. Grace lowered her phone just enough to whisper, Dana, this is history. The flight attendant stared at her polished shoes, breathing shallow. The power she once carried felt brittle now, like a badge held in trembling hands. Dana wasn't triumphant. She was steady. steady like someone who'd spent years fighting quiet battles no one saw. She turned to the crowd, not to boast, but to anchor truth. A child should never need power to be treated like a person. Someone clapped. Then another. The sound rose, not wild, but respectful. A rising affirmation. But far beyond Gate C-27, in offices where numbers looked like nations, an audit portal opened. A freeze solidified. A story began spiraling outward. And as Dana gathered her son close, knowing the hour ahead would shape more than statements, a new voice echoed from the terminal entry. Ms. Brooks, I'm here to take your testimony. A federal badge flashed. Everything was moving quickly now. The federal agent strode forward with calm, precise steps. No urgency, yet every movement felt like a stamp of authority. His badge read, Agent Samuel Ward, Federal Transportation Integrity Commission. Dana stood to meet him, hands still holding Caleb's. Ward didn't speak first. He observed Caleb's thin four-line, Grace's phone recording, the silent semicircle of passengers, the pale flight attendant, the trembling supervisor. Then he addressed Dana with quiet respect. Ms. Brooks, before we begin, I need to confirm one detail for the record. You once served as legal advisor for the Department of Transportation Infrastructure Committee, correct? The terminal air thickened, like everyone inhaled at once. Dana froze, not offended, not proud. Caught between past and present. Grace whispered, Dana, is that true? Dana nodded slowly. Yes. Years ago, before Caleb got sick, Ward's eyes softened with recognition, not of fame, but of someone who'd walked halls where decisions are made quietly, before consequences echo loudly. That affiliation, Ward continued, combined with live documentation and your formal preservation request, that's why the freeze activated so fast. You triggered a dormant clause. Most don't even know it exists. Dana's lips parted. I didn't. I wasn't trying to leverage my past. I know, Ward said gently. But your credibility and the evidence aligned like lightning to a conductor. This case wasn't just witnessed, it was authenticated. The crowd murmured, realization rippling outward. Dana wasn't just a mother fighting. She was a mother the system recognized. Miller looked drained, like a man watching a bridge collapse beneath his feet. Agent Ward, the employee, acted under perceived safety con. Ward raised one hand, halting him without hostility. Mr. Miller, this phase is evidence gathering, not justification. The flight attendant swallowed hard. For the first time, she stepped forward, not defensive, but braking. I thought she was resisting boarding, she said, voice thin. I didn't ask. I should have asked. Her hands shook. A crack through armor. Dana met her eyes, not with anger, but something steadier. You could have asked one question. Just one. Ward opened a slim folder and clicked his pen. Ms. Brooks, we'll record your statement here. Public location, visible witnesses. He turned toward the cameras. Transparency is now required. He began methodically. Described the initial interaction. Dana inhaled. Spoke slowly, truthfully, not rising in anger, but laying out facts like stones across a river. As she recounted every detail, the torn line, Caleb's cry, Grace stepping forward, Ward wrote, confirming times, gestures, phrasing. When she finished, he looked up. Thank you. Your testimony alone won't determine disciplinary action, but combined with footage and medical notes, it carries weight. Caleb squeezed her hand. You did good, Mom. She brushed a tear, just one, from her cheek. Ward closed the folder. A review board will convene within 24 hours. If you choose, Ms. Brooks, you can appear with counsel and recommend procedural reforms. Dana blinked. Reforms? Yes, Ward said. This is bigger than compensation. You can help change how medical passengers are handled nationwide. Hush. A horizon Dana hadn't dared imagine. Grace stepped forward, voice firm. You could protect thousands. Dana nodded, not as someone overwhelmed, but as someone finally standing on steady ground. I'll do it. Ward gave a single approving nod. I suspected you would. The attendant looked up, voice barely a whisper. Is there any way I can help fix this? Dana studied her, really studied her. There might be, she said. But accountability comes first. The attendant nodded, eyes wet, not pleading, but accepting. Ward extended a card. We'll escort you to a secure office for the formal documentation. Caleb can rest in the medical lounge. We'll transport you there. Dana gathered her things, but before moving, she looked once more at Gate C-27, the place where everything broke and everything began. The story was no longer about a rip-for. It was about what happens when the smallest moment meets the right witness, and the right mother refuses to shrink. Agent Ward escorted Dana, Caleb, and Grace through Terminal C. Not rushed, not hidden. Cameras followed. Conversations parted around them like tied around stone. The medical lounge doors opened with a soft hydraulic sigh, revealing quiet chairs, filtered light, and a cot where Caleb settled, her line humming faintly like steady breathing. Ward took the opposite chair, folder open. A formal review begins at 9 o'clock tomorrow, he said. Remote and live attendance allowed. You'll receive a digital brief in 30 minutes. Dana nodded, smoothing Caleb's blanket. And the freeze. Temporary pending findings, Ward replied. But the longer investigation runs, the more pressure builds. Airlines move fast when money doesn't. Grace glanced up from her phone. People online are already asking for oversight reform. Dana's shoulders eased. Not victory, but momentum. Maybe this goes somewhere useful. Ward leaned forward slightly. Reform doesn't come from anger. It comes from clarity. You have that. A knock sounded at the door. Hale entered, still the calm center in the storm. Ms. Brooks, I've spoken with internal executives, he said. They are prepared to offer a private settlement and non-disclosure agreement. Grace's eyes widened. Already? They want containment, Hale said. Silence. The word hung like cold air. Dana looked at Caleb, small body finally resting. She thought of mothers traveling alone, of elderly passengers with oxygen tanks, of people who needed care, not haste. No, India, she said softly. Not today. Not until I know what changes. Hale nodded, relief flickering behind composure. He hadn't wanted silence either. They also requested to meet you privately, he added. Ward shook his head. That meeting will be deferred until after review. Any approach before then is premature and inappropriate. A subtle shift, the weight of Hale's shoulders loosened. He wasn't the villain here. He was the hinge that guided doors open instead of closed. Thank you, Dana said. He nodded. I only wish this started differently. Ward closed his pen. I need one more thing. A witness corroboration. He turned to Grace. You documented from the moment of contact? Yes, she said. Everything. Ward offered her a witness form. Grace signed, hands steady, purpose clear. Ward gathered his folder. I'll submit all materials within the hour. Ms. Brooks, rest. Tomorrow, you speak not only for your son, but for everyone who travels with medical needs. When he left, the room fell quieter. Only the soft beep of Caleb's pump and the distant Pennsylvania announcements broke the silence. Grace turned to Dana. You didn't just react. You led. Dana shook her head. I was scared the whole time. But you moved anyway, Grace replied. Courage isn't loud. Sometimes it's a mother saying stop in a room that wants her quiet. Dana sat beside Caleb, watching his chest rise and fall with restored ease. She reached and traced one curl with her fingers. In another room of the airport, the flight attendant met privately with a supervisor. Not fired yet, but no longer shielded. Actions ripple. Outside the lounge, the crowd slowly dispersed, some still filming, others calling loved ones, dozens quietly saying, I saw it, or I'll remember this. Tomorrow a hearing. Tomorrow decisions. Tonight, a mother sat beside her son, holding calm like a fragile lantern. And somewhere, the audit clock continued ticking, steady, irreversible. The next morning arrived quietly. No dramatic sirens, no pounding headlines in the terminal. Just the soft click of wheelchair wheels on polished tile as Dana guided Caleb to a small conference room near airport administration. For pump secured, morning lights slipping through slatted blinds like thin gold threads. Grace walked beside them with a calm fierceness, holding her phone like a pledge, not a weapon. Hale greeted them at the door with 2 coffees and a bottle of water for Caleb. Panel is logging in now, he said. They've requested live testimony. Dana inhaled. The day felt less like confrontation and more like crossing a threshold. A video monitor flickered to life. 5 commissioners appeared, faces neutral, poised. Agent Ward stood at the far end of the table, folder ready, posture controlled. Dana introduced herself. She spoke clearly, fact before emotion, each word measured like she was laying stepping stones for others to walk. She described the airport hold, Caleb's breathing, the tear of adhesive, the hush before anyone intervened. She ended softly. Policies exist to protect people. All I ask is that those protections reach the people who need them when they need them. The commissioners asked questions, not hostile, but thorough. Documentation timestamps. Medical clearance protocols. Passenger rights during boarding delays. Caleb answered one question himself, voice small but bright. I just needed a little time. They didn't ask. A pause settled over the call. No silence, but recognition. The final commissioner spoke. Ms. Brooks, would you be willing to assist in shaping new passenger medical guidelines? Training changes, procedural checks, passenger rights language. Dana blinked. You're asking me to help write it? Ward replied, not asking. Requesting. Caleb smiled, tire-proud. Dana exhaled, the choice already alive in her chest like a heartbeat. Yes, I will. The ruling came an hour later, measured, not vindictive. The airline would implement mandatory medical accommodation training within 6 months. All staff handling medical passengers would undergo certification. Failure to comply would risk further subsidy suspension. The flight attendant faced corrective action, not dismissal, but retraining, probation, and direct apology requirement. Accountability, not erasure. A chance to learn instead of vanish. When she entered the room later, eyes damp, voice strained, she approached Dana slowly. I'm sorry, she said. Not just for what I did, but for how quickly I decided impatience was more important than care. Dana looked at her, not as an enemy, but as someone who failed, then faced that failure. I accept your apology, she said. Grow from it. The attendant nodded through tears, grateful, humbled. By afternoon, the freeze on airline funds partially lifted, conditional, monitored, no longer untouchable. Systems felt different. Not perfect, but moved. When Dana and Caleb finally boarded a new flight to Columbus, Hale shook her hand. You didn't just win, he said quietly. You changed something. Dana glanced at Caleb, feet tucked under a blanket, for secure, breathing even. No, she replied. We did. As the plane rose through clouds like peeled layers of fear, Caleb reached for her hand. We're safe now, right? Dana pressed her forehead to his. We're seen now. Above the clouds, peace felt like soft air. 3 months later, Columbus, Ohio. Morning sunlight filtered through the sheer curtains of Dana's kitchen, settling in soft rectangles across the table. Caleb sat across from her, homework open for no longer constant, just occasional as needed. His cheeks had grown fuller. His laughter had returned like spring after a long frost. The kettle whistled, gentle and familiar. A small reminder that life could hum instead of break. On the wall beside them hung a framed document, signed by the Transportation Integrity Commission. One line stood bold. Revised National Medical Passenger Protection Protocol. Contributing author, Dana Brooks. Below it, a second frame held a grainy still image from Gate C-27, the one where Dana stood beside Caleb, for coil but courage steady. Not a trophy. A reminder. A moment where silence turned into something louder. The front door chimed. Grace entered, cheeks rosy from the cold. You're early, Dana smiled. I brought muffins. Blueberry. Caleb perked up. Mom said you used to teach English. Will you help me with my writing later? Grace tousled his hair. Best student I ever had, and I haven't even started. They settled around the table. 3 cups of tea. A child's workbook. Light chatter like sunlight through leaves. Life quiet, but never small. Dana's phone buzzed on the counter, an email notification. Subject: Implementation complete. Training rolled nationwide. She opened it slowly, eyes scanning each line. Airline staff across the country had completed medical accommodation certification. New protocols live. Passenger rights signage posted in every major terminal. Reports of smoother accommodations rising. No headline. No drama. Just change. Caleb slid his hand across the table toward hers, warm and steady. You made it better for people like me, he said. His voice wasn't proud. It was peaceful. Dana squeezed his fingers. We did. You were brave when you didn't have to be. Grace watched them both with quiet warmth. You know, she said, a woman in Seattle emailed me last week. Her husband travels with oxygen. She showed the new staff badge training card. Said it changed everything at the gate. No rushing. No fear. Dana's eyes softened. That's all I ever wanted. No billion-dollar freeze hung over her mind now. Only the knowledge that brief moments can become permanent protections when someone refuses to shrink. Outside, the neighborhood stirred. Buses hissed to a stop. Dogs barked. A mail truck rumbled by like an old friend. Dana breathed it in, a life not defined by airports or emergency rooms, but gently, steadily lived. She stood, walked to her desk, and opened a folder labeled simply, Future Recommendations, because protection was progress. But progress needs tending. Caleb finished his homework, slid it across the table for review, then grinned. Mrs. Grace, can I write about the airport for my assignment? Grace smiled. You can, but start with what you learned, not what hurt you. He nodded thoughtfully. I learned that sometimes one person standing up helps everyone stand. Dana turned away for just a moment, wiping one quiet tear that fell not from grief, but from seeing her son no longer in the shadow of that day. Outside, sunlight glinted off the kitchen window, warm, steady, clear, like truth with a second chance. Caleb laughed, light, new, full, and Dana let peace settle. Not the silent kind, the earned kind. Andy, thanks for watching.